All right, finally, President Biden is taking some steps to safeguard our position on the global stage before Trump takes office. Now, Trump will still do damage. He has already done damage to NATO because a large part of NATO is trust among nations that the other nation will step in when they are attacked, and people are supposed to trust America. That trust will go away. But President Biden did just play a move so strategic it could redefine the U.S. stance on Ukraine and Russia while putting Trump in a nearly impossible position. With only 2 months left in Biden's term, he authorized the use of long-range ATACMS missiles by Ukraine, which is a decision that loads consequences that Trump may not be ready to face. Now, really quickly, the people near Trump have been attacking Zelensky, have been openly pro-Russia. For example, Zelensky said in an interview, "The U.S. cannot force us to sit and listen at the negotiating table. We are an independent country," which is totally true. By definition, sovereign nations are able to make their own decisions on the world stage. If the population wants to join NATO, they should be able to. That should be allowed. No one should be able to stop them. And that's why Trump's plan kind of pisses me off, because I have a feeling part of Trump's plan is going to say that Ukraine can never join NATO, therefore stripping its sovereignty away, as Elon Musk does in this tweet. He says his sense of humor is amazing. He actually says his sense of humor is amazing. I mean, he says that the U.S. cannot force them to sit and listen. They have sovereignty. And Elon Musk is essentially saying you don't have sovereignty. F that, which is absolutely disgusting, which is why I'm glad President Biden has taken steps to allow Ukraine to use long-range U.S. missiles going into Russian territory. And like I said, this is a decision loaded with consequences that Trump may not be ready to deal with. Because what if I told you this wasn't just about helping Ukraine, it's about creating a political poison pill for Trump? Let's break this down. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And first of all, let me explain. What are ATACMS and why do they matter? These are long-range missile systems that allow Ukraine to strike deeply into Russian territory. And until now, President Biden had restricted their use out of concern for escalation. He thought Vladimir Putin would escalate if he allowed these missiles to strike inside Russian territory. But all of that changed when Russia recently brought in North Korean troops. 2 months left in office, the president, for the first time, authorized the Ukrainian military to use a system known as ATACMS to help defend its forces in the Kursk region of Russia. And this is a major shift in U.S. policy. The choice has divided Biden's advisors, and the shift comes 2 months before President-elect Donald Trump takes office, having vowed to limit further support for Ukraine. And you know, Ukraine is making a bigger play, because if they can actually get into Russia and grab Russian territory, they will then have a negotiating piece. And they say, we'll give you this territory back if you give Ukrainian territory back. So the Biden administration decided enough was enough recently and allowed Ukraine to use ATACMS. And it's not just a message to Russia, it's a message to North Korea saying that your involvement won't help. And listen, while officials say they do not expect the shift to fundamentally alter the course of the war, one of the goals of the policy change, they said, is to send a message to the North Koreans that their forces are vulnerable and that they should not send more of them. The officials said that while the Ukrainians were likely to use the missiles first against Russian and North Korean troops that threatened Ukrainian forces in Kursk, Mr. Biden could authorize them to use the weapons elsewhere. Some officials said that they feared Ukraine's use of missile borders could prompt Vladimir Putin to retaliate. He's not going to do that. Those fears are overblown. Vladimir Putin is all talk, and he uses his escalatory rhetoric in order to make us scared, but that is part of his strongman persona. But another effect beyond North Korean troops being scared off is this poison pill strategy. Biden is making a strategic play, and let me break down how it affects Donald Trump. So think about this. We know for a fact that the people around Donald Trump want him to limit support for Ukraine. Even Trump himself has vowed to limit support for Ukraine. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said in a closed-door meeting, no more aid to Ukraine. Just 3 or 4 days back, they are going to wind down aid. So what Biden did is he put them in a decision that essentially boxes them in. Because think about it. If Donald Trump reverses this decision and stops the missiles from being shot over the border, he looks weak, or even pro-Russia. He looks like he's weak in the knees on foreign policy, and he would get called out. Something his critics would jump on immediately, even within the Republican Party. There are a lot of hawks in the Republican Party that think he would look weak. So if he keeps the policy in place and continues Biden's strategy, not only does he acknowledge that Biden was right, but there's also a wing of the Republican Party that thinks that he's too pro-war. So it's a political poison pill. Trump inherits this policy that's tough to undo without serious blowback, and that is a win for Biden. Biden even came out and spoke today, not exactly on Ukraine, but on the climate crisis, and began to explain the great economy that he is leaving. Take a listen.
Back home, I signed the most significant climate change law in history, a law that positions us to cut carbon emissions in half by 2030. This generated $450 billion in new clean energy investments. And that's created hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs and a manufacturing boom as well. Folks, we don't have to choose between the environment and the economy. We can do both. We've proven it back home. It's no secret that I'm leaving office in January. I will leave my successor and my country in a strong foundation to build on if they choose to do so. It's true, some may seek to deny or delay the clean energy revolution that's underway in America.
He talks about climate change, which is incredibly important, but something key that he said right there is, I will leave a strong foundation for my successor to build upon if he chooses to do so. If he chooses to do so. The question is, will Donald Trump undo what Biden has done, or I think the smarter move would be to sit back and just almost take credit, which would be really painful for us because it wouldn't surprise anyone. But Donald Trump immediately on day one will try to say the economy is booming. He predicted for years economic doom. The same guy who said we're nearing a recession will pick up Biden's policies and off the back of them say it was all his doing. Because I genuinely think that Trump undoing some of Biden's policies would make our country a substantially worse place. Because as Biden was talking about, he had historic investments in clean energy and infrastructure and manufacturing. If we want to talk numbers regarding the economy, he had record low unemployment, over 13 million jobs created in just a few years. And of course, inflation sucks for everybody, but we did have the fastest decline in inflation among G7 nations, which is great. So where does Trump fit into all this? We know that on day one, he'll say, the jobs are because of my tax cuts. The economy is great because of my policies. I am putting these policies in, but let's not forget, all Trump did during his first term was a $2 trillion tax cut for the wealthy that exploded the deficit, trade wars that hurt American farmers and businesses. Then he had to bail American farmers out. I also have a fear that Putin and Netanyahu are going to try to give Donald Trump an intentional foreign policy win. Trump wants nothing more than to be seen as the anti-war president who ended multiple wars, so he would make a deal with Putin or with Netanyahu. I don't know what that deal would be, but hey, if you relaunch this invasion down the road, blah, 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 but just give me an optical win and say you ended it because of Trump, then I will do this for you. I think that it's very, very possible Trump will try to take credit for many of Biden's accomplishments, and if he does try to undo them, it's a poison pill. Like I said, it is a complete poison pill. You're going to stop these infrastructure projects that are being built. You're going to stop these bridges. You're going to stop all of these roads that are being fixed. Honestly, I'm asking that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trump does stop all of those projects. If you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support independent journalism during the Trump administration, consider becoming a member of Mockler's Mafia by clicking the join button below. The content will always be free, but if you want to help level up the channel, you can become a member of the Mockler Mafia by clicking join below.